everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So today we have another few digital illustrations. I am loving my digital at the moment. It is so fun and so convenient. So what am I drawing today? Well, I am drawing Pokemon, but not Pokemon you've ever seen before. I am drawing brand new Pokemon. Well, they're not exactly Pokemon. Not official ones anyway. I am actually creating my own Pokemon in this video, and I'm going to be doing evolutions of Eevee. Now, what is Eevee? Eevee is the evolution Pokemon. It's this adorable little fox dog sort of creature, and the thing about Eevee is its DNA is actually quite unstable. Now that basically means is that it evolves into many different types of evolutions, and not all the Pokemon types though. There are a few types that it doesn't yet have evolutions for, and that's what I'm doing today. I am bridging the gap and I am creating some new evolutions in new types of Eevee. So for this first one, I'm going to be creating a evolution that is a ghost type. I thought that this was just really interesting. There's a few different concepts that I was, tempted to do. I kind of first thought of like almost like a skeleton with like the gas and wisps around it of like Eevee's shape, but I just felt like it wasn't overly close to the sort of Pokemon designs that sort of fit in to the Pokemon world. So I came up with another idea that I actually really do like. So the story behind this is that this is a regular Eevee. However, it has recently passed away. It has died. Yep, this can be a little bit deep with Pokemon. Hey, they do it as well. Anyways, yeah, so this Eevee has recently died, but its sort of stroll had a really strong will to sort of live, and that ended up creating the soul actually sort of like going back into its body and haunting its body as if it was still alive, but it's not. And yeah, after that its body, since its genetics are sort of unstable, they have changed a little bit to sort of accommodate for this sort of haunting of itself. And yeah, I actually really like this one because I tried to sort of go with designs that were similar to the original but add a sort of, I don't know, a mystical feel about it. I changed the colors of the Eevee to sort of black and white or grey, and I gave it like glowing blue eyes because I felt that that was sort of, I don't know, different feeling. And then after this I still wanted more details on it, so I decided to have this sort of glow sort of coming around its paws and on the top of its head, as if it was, so, I don't know, just a little bit more detail, and maybe that's like its sort of ghostly aura sort of coming out. And for the background, I decided to go with a sort of simple yet dark, almost haunted house sort of look. It's got a bit of a silhouette. There's the moon in the background with some creepy clouds, and it's all got this sort of like creepy feel to it, and I just felt like that was very fitting. And I decided to have the evolution sort of jumping over a fence, sort of running away from this place, mainly because I felt like with this sort of evolution, it would be cool to have it actually not realize that it has evolved, not even remember dying, because to be honest, if you came back to life, you probably wouldn't remember dying either. And yeah, so it still thinks it's a regular Eevee, and that's kind of sad, but I guess that's the story. And oh yeah, for the name for this guy, I decided to go with Raytheon, just because, Wraith evolution, I just felt like it fit. So for this next one, why do I have horses in the references? I'll talk about that soon, but I decided to go with a fighting type for this one. I just really wanted to see if I could create a fighting type Pokemon that was on 4 legs. I don't think that's been done yet, or maybe it has been. Actually, I think Keldeo might be a fighting type. But anyways, this is a purely fighting type, and yeah, I did have a few sort of issues with this, mainly because it is hard to get a fighting type aesthetic on a four-legged Pokemon, but I had the idea to have him sort of jumping up and kicking with his back legs, and he was gonna sort of kick a boxing bag, because I felt like that would be, you know, pretty cool to do. And yeah, so this evolution is lives in a fighting dojo, obviously, like all fighting type Pokemon. It's kind of original, not really, but anyways, yeah, and I decided to have him kicking his back legs up, and that's where the horse images come in, because I needed to find an image of a four-legged animal that was kicking with its back legs. And you're not really going to find that too much with a fox or a cat or a dog or anything with that similar sort of body type, but I decided to look for horse images because it's not overly different. I mean, it is a bit different, but I sort of accounted for that. But yeah, the kicking of the back legs was the same. I feel like I didn't get it perfectly. There's probably some sort of errors in there, but I did the best I could, and I just really like it. So let's talk about the design. I decided to go with sort of warm colors here, nothing too cutesy or anything, because it's a fighting type and they sort of have that kind of aesthetic. And I decided to have bandages wrapped around its front legs because you know, you see that sometimes with like boxers and fighters and stuff, they'll use bandages, and I decided to go with almost like a karate band around its head. I don't know, I kind of wanted to nod a little bit to Naruto with that. That's probably why you can see the spiky yellow hair as well. It's a subtle nod to it, not overly obvious, I hope. And I actually decided to go with two tails because I felt like you know, when you have like a black belt and you tie it around and there's like the two sort of like little bits coming off, I felt like two tails sort of hinted to that a little bit. And yeah, I really like this one. I think it's really cool. I love the way its face sort of turned out, the facial expression where it's, you know, sort of kicking with its back legs, and it's like, I don't know, almost like grunting, or, you know, just really concentrating on that kick. And I think it's really adorable and cute, and I love it. With this guy, I actually decided to give him a little bit more of a muscly physique. I just felt like as a fighter, his body would sort of, you know, account for that need to sort of punch and kick and stuff, and it would grow sort of larger muscles and just be a little bit more built, a little bit more buff, you know. And yeah, I think it's pretty good. I really like the sort of red feet with the brighter red toes. I feel like that's a little bit of a nod to, say, like a boxing glove or something like that, except not as, you know, huge. I guess it could be a bit like an MMA glove where it's still got that room for them to grapple. I think that makes a bit more sense. So for the background, I decided I wanted him to obviously live in a fighting dojo. Very original, I know, but I had to do it. Anyway, so I decided to just look up a few sort of generic images of fighting dojos on the internet, as one does when they need a reference. God love the internet. Anyways, but I didn't really pick one specific one to sort of copy or reference. I sort of just wanted to see what the aesthetic looks like and see what just the rough idea of it looks like and go from there. And for the boxing bag, it was actually quite easy to do. I just went into the airbrushing section and went with a really big, thick, hard brush, and then I basically just used the line tool sort of way to draw and do a straight line, and there we go, a perfect boxing bag. Smack a little bit of texture and shape on there, and you have a easy to do boxing bag. I added a little bit of sort of a motion blur on that just to make it look a little bit dynamic, and then after that I went back in because I almost forgot to do the colored line art, and this is where I ended up really liking this illustration because the colored line art always just makes it look so much more warm and vibrant and lovely. And here is Sparion. Yes, very convenient name. Spa Evolution makes sense, I think. Not the most original name, but it works. So this next one was a really fun one to do, and of course you can't have a Scribble Fix video without me referencing a dragon at one point. Well, there is probably videos without me talking about dragons, but I do talk about dragons a lot, and this is a dragon type evolution. So I decided to go with not your obvious sort of thought when you think of a dragon evolution. I didn't want to just smack some dragon features onto a sort of fox dog creature and call it a day. I kind of want to make this interesting and give a little bit of a different feel to it. Now think maybe Gumi or Drampa or something like that, where it's like obviously a dragon, but it has its own sort of aesthetic, and it has the feel of a dragon, but it's not just, you know, your typical dragon. I didn't want to go with an obviously lizard-like look. I kind of wanted to give it almost a magical feel, if that makes sense. Now he does have a little friend here. It is a dragonfly, definitely not copying Spyro at all. Nope, nada. Yeah, but obviously with the aesthetic of this guy, I decided to give him a bit more of a fluffy look. He does have a fork tail, quite literally there is a fork on the end of his tail, and he has the sort of, I don't know, whiskery things that some dragons seem to have, more of the oriental style of dragon. Kind of think Gyarados, where he has those little whiskery wormy things on his head, except this is on the top of his head. And yeah, obviously I gave him a few scales here and there, but I didn't want it to be the overly you know, obvious feature of him. But I did decide to give him a bit more of a frill neck around his sort of head, and I decided to make it fuzzy. Now there was a temptation to make it frilly, almost as if like Vaporeon, but I decided to go with fur because you can see some dragons with fur, and I just really love that look. I've drawn it a few times, and you know, evolutions, I think more of them should have fur around their neck like the original Eevee and Flareon and that kind of thing. So that's why I decided to do that, as well as the other evolution that I drew with fur around its neck. Now for colours. Now I didn't want to just go with your obvious sort of red or purple or you know, bright green or anything like that, but I decided to go with more of a slight pastel look, but edging more towards sort of gem colours. So we have some teals, we have really light yellow, and we have like a nice sort of soft blue color that I just really love. Now I decided to actually have him in a cave because dragons obviously live in caves a lot of the time, not all the time though, but this time he lives in a cave, and I imagine it's one of those caves right at the end of the game near the Elite Four, and he's probably a super rare evolution, to be honest, and it's probably hard for him to evolve into that. Maybe you have to give him some sort of gem, or maybe you have to evolve him in like a specific place. I don't know. I don't think about these things when I draw them. I'm mainly just drawing it to, you know, look cool. But yeah, I love the way that I drew the background. I feel like I just did those stalagmites and stalactites and the rocks and stuff pretty well, and it looks nice, and I really love this sort of backlighting on them too. It just makes them stand out quite a bit, but while still keeping focus on our basis, you know, the main thing about this image. Now I decided to actually keep him quite bright and light despite having him in a cave. Now this was because I kind of wanted him to look like he was glowing a little bit, almost as if like a gem. You know, dragons like gems and stuff like that, but I didn't want to keep that too obvious or anything. And I actually decided to have his little dragonfly friend glowing as well, and that was a sort of like a light source that I ended up deciding I wanted it to be in the illustration. So I added a few extra sort of light greenish highlights on him facing the dragonfly, and I just really love the look, and I think it looks pretty good. And yeah, it actually took me quite a while for me to settle on a name for this guy, because I just didn't want to go for the obvious, you know, Drakeon or Wiverion or, you know, Dragion. I just didn't really like them, and I felt like they weren't very original, and I wanted something that just would be a little bit more interesting. And I actually decided to go on the Elder Scrolls Skyrim website and just have a look at sort of dragon words, you know, in their dragon language. And I decided to look up what the closest sort of word towards fox would be, because, you know, Eevee is like a fox Pokemon, and that would be cool. It'd be like fox in a dragon language. And I decided to go with Sivas, which is actually the dragon word for beast, which was close enough to fox. And yeah, so Sebastian, kind of interesting. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. So here is the final results of these 3 illustrations, and I just love them. I think they're so cool, and they're definitely interesting and new, and they kind of go together pretty well, and I really like them. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these artworks, check out my online store. Actually, I'm going to be uploading these as limited print runs. They're going to be hand signed. If you want to check that out and get something for yourself, be my guest. And please smash like, subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.